started networking professionally, I shifted the goal to not how many pieces of, 3.5 by 2-inch information cards did I get, but how many appointments did I set?
Hey friends, it is Sarah Noel Block and you're listening to Tiny Marketing. Today we're getting into something that everybody feels awkward about, and we're launching an entire series about it, networking. I know that for years I felt so awkward trying to network because it felt ick. It gave me the ick for real, because I thought everybody I'm talking to thinks that I'm trying to sell them right now when I'm just trying to make friends. Today I am sharing my conversation with Amy Pruitt, and she's going to talk about why you should host your own networking events. And she gave some really valid points. So in today's conversation, you're going to get the lowdown on why you should host your own networking event, how to get started doing that, and how to make them not awkward. So stay tuned. But before we go, my son Dean is homesick today and he wants to say hi.
Hi, I'm Dean.
That was Dean for you. Now stay tuned as first, we're going to talk about my sponsor, Planable, and then we'll get into the conversation. Hey there, fellow marketers. Before we dive back into the conversation, I've got a game changer for your content strategy. Imagine a world where the headache of coordinating, reviewing, and approving content for social media, blogs, and newsletters just disappears. Struggling with team collaboration on content? We've all been there, and it's precisely why you need to hear about this tool. Its name, Planable. Planable is revolutionizing the way teams collaborate on content. Picture this: crafting and seeing your posts exactly as they'll appear live across different platforms, all from one dashboard. Yes, please. The beauty of Planable, it drastically cuts down the approval time for your posts. What used to take hours can now be wrapped up in minutes. Whether you call Planable your unfair advantage or secret weapon in your content creation toolbox, it's changing the content collaboration game. With its beautifully designed interface, you'll wonder how you ever did content planning without it. Ready to upgrade and streamline your approach to content creation? Head over to planable.io and sign up for a free plan today. That's planable.io. And here's the cherry on top. Planable is giving you 30% off for the first 3 months when you upgrade to any plan that fits your needs. That's right, any plan. All you need to do is use the code Planable30. That's PLANABLE30 at checkout. And you're ready and all set to transform the way you manage your marketing content. That's Planable30 to lock in your 30% discount for 3 months. I always go to networking events alone because of that exact thing that you were just talking about, that if I know someone, I'll just hang out with them the whole time and then I don't actually get to know anybody.
It's super tempting. Yeah. So one thing that I would recommend anybody do, regardless of whether you enjoy networking or not, is know why you're going. Have an agenda, have a, we call them KPIs, key performance indicators. So how do you know if this event went well? And it's not how many business cards did you collect. When I started networking professionally, I sort of shifted the goal to not how many pieces, how many scraps of 2.5 by or 3.5 by 2-inch information cards did I get, but how many appointments did I set? And what that looks like is, hey, you're walking around with your calendar. I'm walking around with my calendar. I definitely want to get coffee with you. Can we open up our calendars right now and go ahead and set that appointment?
Oh, that's smart.
And what that does differently, what it does differently is, one, you're doing future you a favor. You don't have to go home and write the email to set the appointment. Two, your fallout's going to be less. And just like a sales funnel, every step where there's friction, you're going to have fallout. And so if you're really interested in speaking to somebody and following up with them, setting the appointment that day, and then you can still send a follow-up email to say, hey, it was really nice meeting you. I'm looking forward to seeing you next Tuesday for coffee at blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so smart. So you get something on the books right away. You don't have to worry
Yep.
about like forgetting somebody when you really wanted to hang out with them again.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really cuts down on that follow-up time. One thing that I really wanted to touch on today is why you should host network events, not just attend them. So what would be like you own a networking franchise? What would you say the biggest benefit is of owning that platform?
Yeah. I joined or I bought it because I was doing so much networking for the design business. And this just felt like, wow, if you really want to get known, if you really want to become the guy that knows a guy, right? To always be the person that is thought of as well connected, in terms of, man, I don't know a business attorney to talk to you, to refer to you, but I bet she does. If you want to be, sort of, it raises your profile, in the community in a way that other forms of marketing just doesn't do. If you think about the time and the money invested in putting on a networking event, you can't just do one. Just like any form of marketing, consistency matters, and it is the sort of thing that builds over time. But if you think about your return on investment in your time and in your energy and in your money to a lesser extent, putting yourself in a position to be the connector is worth more than you put into it, I promise.
So how would you get started doing that?
I was invited to go to a Network in Action event by one of my clients. Actually, I had a brand design client who was in Houston, Texas, which happens to be where I got started. And she flew me out there because she was preparing for a major rebrand, big deal. So we went out there for a few days and she invited me to her NIA meeting. And I said, sure. I had no expectations, had never heard of it before. And I went, and long story short, after that weekend, I came home and I bought a franchise because I was so experienced in going to chamber events and Women Connect and local stuff and Rotary and BNI, all these things. I'd done all those before. This one hit different. You could tell that the aim of the organization was really to help people grow their businesses. It wasn't to create a breadth of how many business cards you have, how many referrals did you send last month. It was really about forming a cohort of people in your community that work together, that help each other, that sometimes wind up going into business together, but at the very least, you become the go-to subject matter expert person to see in your industry. And by, it's not really cheating. I guess it's kind of cheating. If you think about it, but like hosting your own events puts you in that position. You get to, cut the line and be the one that everybody knows is the authority on putting these events together.
Yeah, you own the platform rather than having someone else take ownership of that. There's so much power.
Right. Right. That's a good way to put it. It's real estate that you own.
Yes, exactly. So you were able to do that through a franchise. How would Joe Schmo be able to hosting their own?
Good question. Yeah. No, that's a great question. So one thing to think about is what's the goal? Again, you want to, if you're attending, you want to have a goal in mind. If you're hosting an event, you want to have a goal in mind. So, like with any marketing, is the goal, brand awareness? Is the goal to find new clients? Is the goal to find referral partners? So based on whatever your goal is, let's say your goal is to build out a network of referral partners. And let's say you work in in an industry where you often, are referring, let's say you're a real estate agent, because that's just low hanging fruit for an example. So if you're a realtor, who are some folks in your zone that are going to be good referral partners? And they might be mortgage brokers or home inspectors or general contractors. So what I would do would be to reach out to some of those people and say, hey, I'm going to go to this bar on Main Street and I'm going to, host an event there. Who do you know in your industry that's looking for, more clients, looking for referrals, and sort of branch out from, they say like, do what you know. You sort of branch out from a place of, these are the folks that I need to meet. These are the folks that I can help. And that I think there'd be some good reciprocity, and start from there. And maybe you can get someone to co-sponsor it with you. So maybe it's like the real estate agent and a closing attorney, host an event together. And then, marketing is easy on Eventbrite and LinkedIn and all those sorts of things. But if I were to start it, you don't have to be a part of an organization just to host a networking event. You can do that anytime you want. I think smart people make it a part of their regular marketing schedule, whether they're hosting or attending. I think the people who are doing really, really well, even in quote unquote tough times, people who don't experience those tough times are the ones that are consistently hitting the pavement.
Amen. Yeah, it makes all the difference in the world, the relationships that you've built along the way and maintaining those relationships. So you're saying just get started doing something like you would if you were hosting friends. You at a table at a restaurant and you ask someone else in your industry to invite people, you invite people.
Yeah. I'll tell you what we do with NIA. This is so at Network in Action event, meetings and open events too. I, as the franchise owner, I always buy everybody's first drink. So I buy your first glass of wine, your first beer, and I always provide appetizers for the room. And what I like to do is I go to, we also do it sort of in this twilight time, sort of between business and after hours. So it's like 3:30 to 5, 4 to 5:30, that sort of time, which is really nice if you have young kids and you don't want to be out networking every evening after work.
Yeah.
So I go to the place, I go to a restaurant that I think would be a great spot for it. I walk in when I want to host it. So I walk into a restaurant. If a restaurant's open at 3:30, they're dead at 3:30, right? So I say, what would it be like if I brought 20 to 25 professionals in here, bought everybody a drink and bought some apps for the room? Would that be okay? They're looking around like, this time of day when you're pretty dead, would that be all right? And I've never paid a room fee, because if you can do it at a time where the business is already slow, or even if you can't do it during the workday, most people are more than happy to get a guaranteed, ticket of however many drinks that comes out to. And you can always find places that'll let you do it for no cost.
Let's take a quick pause because I want to talk about one of my sponsors, Leadfeeder. Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs and B2B marketers. Before we dive back into the conversation, let me introduce you to a game changer in the lead generation arena, Leadfeeder. Now, we all know the struggle of identifying those elusive website visitors and turning them into valuable leads. But what if I told you there's a tool that not only promises, but delivers on supercharging your lead generation and sales efforts? Enter Leadfeeder. Imagine having the power to identify companies visiting your website, track their behavior in real time, and seamlessly integrate it all with your CRM. Leadfeeder is not just a tool, it's your secret weapon for efficient and targeted lead engagement. What sets Leadfeeder apart? It's the ability to provide detailed insights into visitor behavior, helping your sales team prioritize efforts and close deals faster. With customizable notifications, lead scoring, and GDPR compliance, Leadfeeder is changing the game. Ready to revolutionize your approach to leads and deals? Head over to leadfeeder.com for your free demo today. That's LEADFEEDER.com. Don't miss out on the future of successful lead generation with Leadfeeder. So, how has hosting networking events impacted your business?
It's so funny. It hasn't been as directly. So I've been told by some of my members that I don't remind them that I'm a designer often enough.
Actually, no,
because
you mentioned that when we were talking.
So I've gotten that feedback. Like, remember to tell people that what you do. So, because I can get into the mode of hostess, right? I'm getting into the mode of making sure everybody else is getting what they need and making connections. So, I haven't gotten as many direct referrals, but what's happened is, um, I've started to become seen as a go-to subject matter expert in the community.
Mm.
And I recently got asked to do a speaking engagement where I was speaking about branding. Someone in the audience at that engagement wanted me to come and speak to her team. So it's interesting that it's leading like through a side door to these other opportunities. And they say if you want to get more speaking gigs, do speaking gigs.
Yeah. Building your authority, essentially.
Yeah, you're building the authority. And when you invite these people, that's the other thing I would kind of circling back to the cattle call and how that doesn't serve most people. All of our meetings have a structure. And this is something that anybody can do. So whether it's as simple, you have everybody play a game, speed networking is a really great structured activity. So you've got, just like speed dating, you sit people down, you got teams of A and B, the A's stay put and the B's move from seat to seat to seat. And so you get a little mini one-on-one session with about 10 different people, facilitating it that way. Or I've seen people, this is not an NIA one, but I've seen this done before where they do the human bingo, where you have to go around and find someone in the room who was born in January. They have to find somebody, right, who's never broken a bone or whatever it is. And so there's like icebreakers. Have a structured activity. And then the other thing that allows you to do is at some point during the night, you get to take the stage, take the microphone and say, hey, thank you guys so much for coming. I really want to get to some good, networking for you guys. I got this really cool activity before we get to that. And then you can launch into anything you want, really. You've got the attention. They're all there, because you've organized it. So you get to use that platform to promote.
I have a question. So if you're hosting a networking event, can you intermingle that with education, like bringing in an expert guest? Or so you can kind of do that twofold where you are building relationships with potential referral partners while also networking for your business.
I think that's a brilliant idea. And that's actually something that I don't do enough of, which is bringing somebody in, either a speaker or, coach, business coach or something like that. That's an awesome idea. They're always going to be happy to have the gig, right? Yeah. Usually they'll do it for free or very low cost for the exposure or, depending on what their situation is. And the people who attend get the benefit and they're like, oh my God, you got to go to Sarah's next thing. She always puts a great event together.
Yeah. Now, one thing that you mentioned in our pre-call is that you have really out of the box networking activities to get people a little bit more comfortable so it's not so awkward. What kind of activities would you recommend other people do if they're hosting a networking event?
That's a great question. I'll tell you a couple things that really worked for me and a couple things that flopped.
Okay.
I've had things that flopped hard. And you know what it is? You just have to learn. Oh my God, I'm cringing right now just remembering it. So things that worked. I did a network around the holidays a couple years ago. It was like November. We wanted to do something elevated. I was collaborating with a new event space. And so we were kind of putting our heads together and thinking, what's a cool way to have a networking event that also kind of shows off the event space. And the owner had mentioned to me that on his off hours, he's a jazz musician. He loves to play jazz piano. And I said, got it, networking with live jazz. And so we were like, what would it be like? We're in this event space. We had, a quartet sort of on a stage all the way at one end of the room. And it was loosely structured. We wanted to let the music sort of take center stage and be this, lovely backdrop, but then also something that people could go and stand and, enjoy the music if they wanted to just listen. And it made for a great marketing, like networking in the key of jazz, I think is what we called it. So that was one that worked well. fun venues. So there's a friend of mine who hosts a monthly meetup at the Drive Shack. Do you guys have Drive Shack? Do you know what this is? So think a bowling alley, but instead of bowling, you're golfing. So you rent a bay.
Okay.
It's really cool.
We have similar ones.
Yeah. I'm sure there are different brand names. The one near us is called Drive Shack. And so you rent a bay and you can get, your beer and your very average nachos. But the idea is that you're there and there's an activity. And what that does is that takes the pressure off of you thinking, oh my God, I've got to go and I've just got to talk to all these people I don't know. If there's an activity, you can go watch the activity. You can participate in the activity. You can, joke with somebody about how the person doing the activity is so, awful at it or great at it or whatever. And it gives having an activity that's not just networking sort of takes the pressure off. And that kind of leads to what I thought was going to be an awesome success, but was a total failure. But the 11 of us who were there still talk about it, which was I had this idea to do networking and karaoke.
Oh, yes. You mentioned this. Tell me more. I didn't know it was a flop. Now I know.
It was a flop. But what was crazy was everyone I told about it was like, oh my God, that sounds awesome. That sounds like so much fun. Let's do that. Oh, I'll definitely come. And so it's one thing if a networking event doesn't have very many people at it. I've had successful networking events where 5 people came, because if only a few people come, what that means is those who come just get this richer, more in-depth experience. And if I had one of the best networking events ever. And I think it was like 15, no, it was over 20. It was over 20 people registered on Eventbrite or Facebook or however I did it. And then 5 people came. So what we did was we just got a table. I bought everybody drinks and apps, and we just sat there and we talked about how everybody's business was doing and how we could each help each other. And it became this really cool mastermindy thing.
That's it's more intimate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to know those people, and one of them wound up joining my, NIA group, and that was awesome. And, so now we've become close. But the karaoke thing, I had one of my NIA members who by day does social media marketing for other companies. By night, he's karaoke DJ. And so I hired him, and we got the venue, and we had like special drinks, and we had this restaurant down the street, brought in platters, and it was so exciting. And 11 people, and like the first few people like came in the door early or like right on time. And I was like, hey guys, let's get warmed up. And, the DJ did a couple songs to sort of, get people going. And then like no one else came.
Oh,
and so, we wound up, but we kind of turned it into a thing where everybody sang, even the people who swore they were not going to sing. So everybody got a chance to sing. And it was kind of like, we were all laughing together and sort of making fun of ourselves and singing silly songs. And I mean, it wound up being a lot of fun, but it felt like a friend gathering more than a networking event.
Yeah, I get what you mean. So like it was still enjoyable, but you guys didn't actually get to the networking part.
Yeah, because most of the people who came already knew each other from one way or another. And so as a networking event, it was a flop. People joke about it all the time, like, you're going to throw another, networking karaoke event. And I might do it again. But no, there's so much of the same out there that just like any sort of marketing, if everybody's going right, go left sort of idea, how can you spice it up? Maybe it's hosting an event at a cool venue. The axe throwing, knife throwing stuff is really happening right now. That could be a fun networking thing. An activity to take the pressure off, I would think, is a great way to start.
So I know people are going to ask this question. How do you get people to go? How do you get people to actually sign up for, discover, and attend your events?
So the ways that I do it specifically, and just, when I bought the NIA franchise, I was the only owner in the state of North Carolina. There was nobody else doing this. It's not like we had name recognition. Nobody had heard of us before. So there are a couple of ways. I mean, it's a long game. One is go to other people's events and talk it up. I've done this thing before where I would make a QR code for my upcoming event and I would make it my screensaver on my phone. So when I'm at the networking event, I'm like, oh my gosh, you should totally come to my thing next week.
Oh, smart.
Scan it right then and there, take it right to the Eventbrite, make it really easy for people. I usually do Eventbrite. I don't think of Eventbrite as a partner in terms of, I don't think that they help me get visibility. You can pay for that, but I never do. I just use it as a place to hold the information and keep track of my orders and RSVPs, and then just put it everywhere you show up. So for me, that's LinkedIn. I would email if you've got a list of folks in your business contacts, email to all of them. Hey, I'd love to see you at this event. Maybe if anybody else from your company wants to come, share this with them. It's a lot of just hands-on, person-to-person, word of mouth work.
Yeah. So it's like anything. There is no easy way to do it. That's basically how you started podcasting too, is you guest on other people's podcasts and you invite the audience to listen to your podcast after they've had a taste.
Is that what happened with yours?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other way to build an audience but to borrow other people's audience.
Yeah. That's right.
Now.
And if one other sort of cheat or shortcut, if there is one, is if you know somebody who's already a monster connector, like if you know the person who's always at every single event, or they've got, 5,000 followers on LinkedIn, maybe trade services with them, or see if you can make it worth their time to help promote the event. Maybe you can co-promote something together. Maybe let them be a speaker at your thing, and then they can help share the word with their platform.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's like partnership marketing. Anytime you're partnering with someone, even if they aren't part of the event, but they're willing to promote it in exchange for you promoting something of theirs. Well,
right.
Get that visibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I know those people. It's so funny. Like as much as I do this, I don't think of myself as that person, but I know who those people are in my network, right? Like if I
secretly that person, you just don't realize it.
It's possible that I am, and it hasn't sunk in yet, but I think of if I really want to get the word out, who should I talk to? And I bet if you think through who's in your personal network, you've got those people too.
Oh, yeah. Someone popped into my head immediately when you said that. Okay. Before we move on to the topic 2, which for listeners, that's in a whole other episode, so don't get excited. Is there anything else you want to touch on why you should host your own networking events?
We've kind of covered it, but just to drive home the point that there really isn't a magic bullet with marketing. Everything that's going to work, if it's just like weight loss, right? You can the things that are going to be sustainable, that are going to work over time, are slow and steady. It's not a quick fix. It takes that. Nobody likes to hear it, myself included. It's a long game. It's a ground game. It's one-on-one conversations. And the more of those you have with people, the more of those individual conversations you have, there is a cumulative effect of it. And sometimes you get incredible deals right out of the gate. Sometimes people want to hire you. Sometimes you get big deals out of it, or an awesome referral partner. And that's great. But usually it's slow and steady when it's a race.
Yeah, it's a snowball effect when it comes to authority, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right. So where do you spend time online so everyone knows where to follow you?
Yeah. So the only social media platform I'm putting my eggs in the basket of this year, kind of like what you were talking about in a recent episode, I'm doing LinkedIn. If you happen to be in the Triangle area of Chapel Hill, come and hang out at an event.
Don't worry about Don't worry about if your event has 5 people come or 20 people come. It's more about building those connections, and you'll get that snowball effect. And partnerships are key in the beginning to be able to get the most visibility to your event. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation with Amy, and you have some plans going forward to host your own networking event. It can have a huge impact on your business, and let me know if you do. You can, if you're on Apple Podcasts, then in your review, let me know if you ended up enacting any of the things that we talk about on this show. Or if you're on Spotify, just rate and review, because I appreciate that and I appreciate you. I will see you next week. And just a reminder, this is a whole freaking series. So get excited to learn more about networking all month long. And we will be hosting a workshop this month as well. I'll put the info in the show notes, but if you want to join me live, and we're going to be talking about how to network not so awkwardly, how you can really do it with ease and comfort. So make sure you hit me up and join me and chat with me. All right, see you next time. Mwah.